Sometimes the truth hurts. And when it comes to human relationships, the reality is that we often cling to people who deep down have already let us go. We convince ourselves that if we try a little harder, if we prove our worth, if we do things right, that person will stay. But here's a truth that once understood deeply changes everything. When someone no longer wants you, the signs are clear. However, our minds fight against them. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious constantly sends us signals, whispering uncomfortable truths in the form of intuitions, emotions, and even physical sensations. That feeling of unease when someone responds with coldness, that emptiness you sense when the connection begins to fade, all of that is your unconscious speaking to you. But instead of listening, we often choose to ignore it. Why? Because facing the truth means confronting our deepest fear, the fear of rejection, of not being enough, of being abandoned. In our psyche, rejection is not just an isolated event. It's a wound that touches the deepest layers of our identity. When someone stops loving us, we don't just feel the absence of their affection. We are forced to look into a mirror that makes us question ourselves. Why wasn't I enough? But here is where Jung offers a completely different perspective. It's not about being enough for someone else. It's about being authentic to ourselves. When someone no longer loves you, you'll notice it not because they will tell you directly, but because their energy changes. Jung spoke about projection, the mechanism through which we impose onto others what we don't want to acknowledge within ourselves. When we cling to someone who no longer feels the same way, we are projecting our own need for love and validation onto them. We want them to give us what we are not willing to give ourselves: acceptance, security, and self-knowledge. And here lies the problem. The more you insist on holding on to a relationship with someone who is not aligned with you, the further you stray from your own truth. Jung believed that the unconscious will always seek to manifest truth, even if it means causing pain. That's why when someone no longer wants you, you begin to notice the signs you previously ignored: shorter responses, less enthusiasm, less interest in sharing their world with you. It's not that they are hiding it. It's that you don't want to see it. The conscious mind seeks rational explanations. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're going through something difficult. If I try harder, things will go back to the way they were. But the unconscious knows the truth. It knows that relationships based on one-sided effort are destined for suffering. It knows that clinging to someone who no longer chooses you is an act of self-deception. Jung also spoke about the importance of individuation, the journey of becoming the most complete and authentic version of yourself. One of the hardest stages of this process is learning to let go, and this doesn't just mean letting go of people, but also letting go of ideas, expectations, and narratives that no longer serve you. When someone stops loving you, the pain doesn't just come from their absence. It comes from the internal struggle between what you wish for and what is real. But here's the most crucial part. Letting go is not losing. It is gaining. It is gaining clarity, energy, and space for what is truly meant for you. Jung taught that the universe and the unconscious always work together. When something leaves, it is because something better is meant to arrive. But for that to happen, you have to be willing to accept the truth even when it hurts. Most people resist this truth because it requires accepting uncertainty and acknowledging that we have no control over how others feel or act. But there is one thing you can control: your ability to choose what to do with the reality in front of you. When you finally accept it, something interesting happens. At first, the emptiness is overwhelming, but then, in the silence of that absence, you begin to notice something you had been ignoring all along: your own voice. The voice that had been drowned out by the need to fit into someone else's life, by the fear of loneliness, by the hope that things would be different. Carl Jung understood that human suffering does not come solely from pain itself, but from our resistance to transformation. Love is a reflection of consciousness. When a connection is no longer aligned with who you are, its energy shifts. You won't immediately notice the disinterest because the mind creates illusions to protect itself from pain. We justify absences and silence. But the reality is that when someone stops loving you, their world continues to turn without you. It's not that they hate you. It's simply that their energy has moved in another direction. This is not a punishment. It's a call to look within yourself and ask, why am I insisting on something that no longer flows? Why am I so afraid to let go? Jung spoke of projection because he understood that many times what we seek in others is what we deny ourselves. Perhaps you are looking for love from someone who cannot give it to you because you have not yet learned to love yourself. Life has a mysterious way of teaching us what we need to learn. If you keep chasing someone who no longer chooses you, the lesson will only become more painful, because love is not possession. It is alignment. And when something is no longer aligned, insisting only prolongs suffering. You will notice it when their words lose warmth, when their responses become mechanical, and when there is no longer emotion in their eyes. And here comes the key question: what will you do with this truth? You can deny it, keep insisting, and hope that things will change, or you can do what Jung suggested. Integrate the lesson, allow the pain to do its work, and finally let go. Letting go does not mean you did not love. It means you love yourself enough not to beg for scraps. It means you choose your peace over a futile struggle. It means you recognize that life moves forward and that what is truly meant for you will never have to be forced. When you decide to let go, something within you changes. At first it hurts, but then in that absence, in that space that once felt unbearable, you start to notice something new: freedom. You begin to remember who you are outside of that relationship and what makes you feel alive. Jung said that the unconscious always seeks balance. When someone leaves, it is because a new version of you is waiting to be discovered. But you will only see it if you stop looking back. It is not easy, but the hardest truth to accept is this: if someone truly wants you in their life, you will know it. You will feel it in their words and in their actions. You won't have to decipher ambiguous messages or justify their indifference. A real connection is clear. The greatest act of love you can give yourself is recognizing when someone has stopped choosing you and having the courage to do the same. The mind plays cruel tricks when faced with loss. It wants to find reasons and justifications. But here is the truth that Jung understood so well: what is gone is gone. What is not aligned with you cannot stay. You cannot control someone else's feelings. You can try, of course. You can sacrifice yourself and endure silences, but all of that will only achieve one thing: making you forget who you are. Jung spoke of the importance of integrating the shadow, the process of recognizing those parts of ourselves that we avoid confronting. One of the most painful ways this happens is when we find ourselves clinging to someone who does not love us back. The answer often lies in our fear of what their rejection reflects back to us, that we are not enough. Their love never defined your worth. Their presence or absence never determined what you deserve. That power lies only within you. When someone no longer loves you, you will know it. You will see it in the way they stop prioritizing you. You will feel it in the way conversations that once flowed effortlessly now feel forced. And though it is painful, the bravest thing you can do is to accept the truth, because the truth, no matter how painful, will set you free. Jung famously said, "What you resist persists." The more you resist accepting that someone no longer wants to be in your life, the more pain you will create for yourself. At first, your mind will rebel, but here is the key truth. Real love does not need to be begged for. When someone truly wants to be in your life, they show it. And when they no longer want to be, they show that too. The emptiness that comes with their absence is not the end. It is a sacred space, a rebirth. It is the moment where you have the opportunity to rediscover yourself and remember who you were before them. Love is not about losing yourself in another person. It is about sharing your light without letting it be dimmed. When you finally choose to let go, you will notice something else too, that life continues. The pain is not permanent, and there are new doors waiting to open for you, but you will never see them if you keep looking back at what was. What exhausts us the most is not rejection itself, but the internal struggle of trying to hold on to something that has already crumbled. Jung spoke of the process of individuation as the path to the true self, and part of that journey involves recognizing which relationships nurture your growth and which ones only drain your energy. We confuse love with attachment and believe that if we let go, we will be losing something valuable. But what we truly lose is ourselves when we stay where we are no longer welcome. Sometimes we feel guilty for wanting to walk away, but that isn't selfishness. It's evolution. The unconscious mind reveals the truth to us in many ways, but fear keeps us bound. We tell ourselves it is better to endure, that maybe things will get better. But deep down we know the truth. We know when a relationship has reached its natural end, and that there is no point in forcing it further. The signs are always there, waiting for us to acknowledge them. That inexplicable exhaustion, that silent sadness hidden behind a forced smile. Jung believed that the unconscious always knows the truth before the conscious mind does. If you stop to listen, you will see that the answer was always there. You do not need concrete proof to know that someone no longer wants to be in your life. You do not need perfect closure. Love is not communicated only with words. It is communicated through actions, through energy, through the way someone chooses to be present in your life. And when that presence fades, holding on will only hurt you more. But here comes the most important part. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of self-love. It means valuing yourself enough not to stay where you are not fully received. It means choosing your peace over the fear of loneliness. It means preferring the uncertainty of the future over the false security of a relationship that only hurts you. When you finally make the decision to let go, something inside you changes. You no longer live waiting for answers that will never come. Instead, you start to notice something new, space. A space where you can rebuild yourself, where you can rediscover who you are, where you can begin to attract what is truly aligned with you. And then over time, you realize something: you didn't lose anything. On the contrary, you gained the opportunity to start over, to create a life where love is not a battle, but a natural and fluid connection. A life where you no longer have to convince anyone to stay. When you finally accept the truth, when you stop looking for signs where there are none, something inside you changes. You feel a relief, a quiet kind of rest. Because what exhausts us the most is not rejection itself, but the internal struggle of trying to hold on to something that has already crumbled. There comes that moment when everything changes, not because the other person came back, but because you finally let go. You stopped waiting for what never arrived. You stopped asking why. You stopped carrying the hope that something already broken could return to what it once was. And in that moment, you realize that true peace does not come from holding on, but from letting go. Jung taught us that life is always in motion. Growth is inevitable. Every farewell, no matter how painful, carries a hidden blessing. It creates space for something far more valuable, a deeper connection with yourself. What truly causes suffering is the time we spend ignoring our own intuition and fighting against what was already evident. Today, I invite you to reflect. How many times have you ignored the signs out of fear of being alone? How many times have you justified someone's indifference just to avoid facing reality? Leave a comment below and share which part of this message resonated most with you. What decision will you make starting today? If this content helped you in any way, share it. Someone else might need to hear this message right now. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue exploring these life-changing topics together. Because the more people wake up to these truths, the more we can build a community where self-love and authenticity are the foundation of everything we do.